Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is Cee, Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 100 of Beer Another Shit, the podcast Adjunct Series, the 100th episode of the Adjunct. It's kind of crazy, man. Like, obviously, we've done a lot more than 100 episodes. We had the first series, and then we sort of changed up into different seasons. And then this was kind of like just when we started a couple years ago when we went virtual. We're like, all right, well, what are we going to do? We made this Adjunct the Anything series. So that's why we just keep doing virtual pods all over the place. And 100 episodes, kind of crazy. But the great thing about this one, this is going to be the first time we're actually talking to someone from the independent bottle shops in Ontario, which has been a movement that we've spoken about here, not really at length that I've wanted to go into, but we finally get to tonight so we can learn about exactly how it came about, what the deal is, how it all works. I am stoked. So guys, please welcome Zack and Justin of Toronto Brewing in the building. There they are. What's going on, boys? Thank you for hanging out, man.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate y'all. So for the record, I have known, Zack and I known each other sort of briefly, I want to say since hang on. No, my friend Scott, who used to be my co-host, we bought the stuff from you in 2011. It was like way back in the day. And we used to, yeah, that was when he got the introductory kit with the buckets, the hose, the siphon, the all the stuff, and the initial, is it called Brewer's Best kits?
Yeah.
So we got the Brewer's Best kits from there. Then
Wow.
Yeah, man, that was a long time ago. That was when we first got into beer, like properly. Moved on, he made a little, what do you call it? Why am I having a mash tun out of a cooler? We moved into all grain, so we would come past and you had the little the drill that plugged in, so you could like drill the grain and stuff. It was a good time, man. So we've always wanted to have you on. I think we talked about it in the past, and then now, obviously, moving into the bottle shop era, it's kind of perfect. And then Justin and I realized, I don't know if we had ever met, but we have a ton of friends in common from where I used to work in Toronto. Like, used to play at the same gigs that I used to attend and stuff. So super small world with you both.
Small
tonight.
world indeed.
It's a beautiful thing. So we're going to get into all things bottle shop tonight, and we're going to start off with a curation. We're going to be drinking a curated set of beers that you guys put together, which is sick, of all Ontario products that you can get at Toronto Brewing Bottle Shop. And we're going to start with this little bad boy, a little Great Lakes Hydration, which is a sick name. Or Hydrator? No, it's Hydration. Helles Lager, 4.7. Do you guys know much about this? Oh, it's a collab with Godspeed. Oh, sick. I didn't see that. Fuck, good choice.
Yeah,
I felt like I needed some hydration.
Funny thing about this one, it came out of right after Third Moon did the collab with them way back. About a week or two after that, Max from Godspeed posted a picture of Bim and himself at Great Lakes, and I messaged the sales rep immedly and was like, "We need to get that in because we sold through the Third Moon one so fast."
I imagine.
And the idea of both of them doing it together was just like awesome. In the end, the sales reps actually changed for our area, but I followed up just in time. And so, which means this was lagering for like 3 months.
That's amazing.
It's fresh.
Yeah,
it turns out we were one of the only people outside of Great Lakes to get it. But there were only 15 cases across Ontario released to any licensees.
Jesus Christ.
So we were really psyched to get this.
This is a beaut. Boys, cheers.
Mm-hmm. Cheers.
Cheers. This is a crusher. It's so good.
Wow. Damn. Obviously, yeah, Godspeed are the goats for them to come in and do that. Do you guys know what they sort of were looking for here? It's a 4.7. I guess like a pretty straightforward, nice. I mean, obviously all these type of beers, that's the point. Straightforward, very crushable, wicked mouthfeel, nice nice cereal vibes, a little bit bitter. I noticed that Godspeed stuff typically is more on the bitter side on their Crispies, obviously.
Yep.
Like I guess
For
more
sure.
of a Czech, but this is a German style, so I've probably toned that down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Definitely the malt comes to the front on this one, but I can still get a little bit of the water profile from Godspeed. Like there's a touch in the drying nature, like in the finish, which reminds me a lot of Godspeed.
Yeah. Great point. Very cool, man. Honestly, I didn't even see this one, so this is extra cool that that was the deal. So I'm just going to take a couple of one-word. No, I forgot to tell you guys, I do the little stupid selfie things, and I just take a couple one-word reviews for it, so we'll keep talking, but I just want you to think I'm being rude looking down. So first and foremost, whilst I'm doing that, tell us about, I want to get both of your beer histories. How did you both get into craft beer to end up at Toronto Brewing? So whoever would like to start.
I guess I'll start. So yeah, started around 2011 for Toronto Brewing, but a few years before that, went to California and tried Sierra Nevada and Anchor for the first time, and really tried, my first taste of hops and bitterness after just drinking like Molson Canadian and Moosehead and stuff like that. And my mind was blown, and I came back and I couldn't find it at the LCBO, so I found a recipe online, and the rest is history.
Did you have this was your first time homebrewing at that time? When you discovered that, you're like, I need to make it?
Yeah, I connected with a couple friends about doing it, and we got a turkey fryer from Bass Pro Shops for $109. It was like an aluminum kettle with propane burner, and we did a brew in a bag setup. We got like the grains, and we crushed the malt, and we brewed like a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale clone, and it was encouragingly close. And I knew right away I wanted to open up like a brewery or something like that. And I later went to the homebrewers conference that year, HomebrewCon, and I came back just totally psyched to do something. And the scene was in its infancy, and I just started brewing up a storm. And by the end of the summer, I opened up Toronto Brewing, just a little like homebrew supply store out of the house that I was renting at the time.
Yes, near like was like Bathurst and Eglinton
Granite.
type of thing.
Mount Pleasant, Eglinton.
Okay, dude, I remember that. We went to the house.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my god, I forgot about that. God damn.
Yeah, it was just a house. My neighbors thought I was dealing drugs because people kept coming to my porch
and leaving with green things in a bag.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus. Oh man.
So
that's
as
crazy.
soon as I was walking Tucker, at the park, and people were like, "What do you do again for work?" It was time to get a real location, and then we got the Chestwood location, and then just during COVID, we got the Geary location.
Okay, and the Chestwood is the original one, which is kind of up by Downsview area-ish, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly.
Yep.
Near Downsview, Chestwood Arena, right behind California Sandwiches.
Perfect. For folks who don't know, so that did that store end up becoming a bottle shop as well, or was it just Geary's a bottle shop and that's the homebrew?
Just Geary's a bottle shop. So over the course of the past 2 years, kind of started looking for some new space, or about 2 years ago, and there was a spot open on Geary, and it had a liquor license. So I thought it would be cool to have a second location, especially on Geary. Like, it's such a cool street with Blood Brothers, Baldassare, just a great area. Like, super grateful to, just even see something on that street available, because it's so hard to get a spot there, and decide to grab a lease there. Plot twist: it's kind of like a pop-up. It's only a 2-year lease. Okay. So it's actually up at the end of this year. So it was going to be a club. They were going to turn it into a club, and then COVID happened, and they had to stop work in the middle of it. And it was like Blair Witch Project, like HVAC coming down from the ceiling, no light, super dark, metal pieces everywhere. But I was like, this is perfect. This is perfect. And so it might be turned into a club one day again. But in the meantime, we've got it, and we've put together like a pretty cool bottle shop and also like a Toronto Brewing full homebrew supply store in there.
Love it. That's amazing. I guess we'll come back to that and sort of what you plan to do with it then. That's awesome. So Justin, how did you get into beer, bro?
Oh man. I was trying to think about this earlier today and like what kind of the turning point from going from just crushing whatever PBR I could get my hands on in my early 20s to actually appreciating, and kind of what I came down to was just like a visit to the Esplanade beer market when it was still really new. So this would have been like 2006-ish.
Okay.
And just like at that point, I mean, like we discussed, we knew each other kind of in a different life, different parties and so on. But yeah, like at that point, there was Mill Street and there was Nickelbrook, the Apple one that you discuss.
Yes.
Those are the cheap beers at the bar. But I really hadn't had a lot of experience with like solid European beers. Of course, they're the ones at the beer store, the LCBO, but I remember going to Esplanade Beer Market and getting a pint of Czechvar for the first time.
Nice.
Actually, sorry, I take that back. It was Staropramen.
Ooh, okay.
And it was ultra fresh, and it just like blew my mind. And then after that, I had a glass of Fruli, and I was like, oh, this is fun.
Love Fruli.
And that was like the only place to get Fruli at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that really opened my eyes, and it was like, okay, European beer, like, let's go. Let's like try as many of them as possible. You know, go to the beer store that was at Dufferin and Bloor. They were out of Staropramen, so what are they going to recommend? And then it was Kozel, and then it was Czechvar, and then I got really into Grolsch for a long time. So it's kind of at that point. Fast forward like a year, moved, and was at I had a loft apartment that overlooked Fort York, and that's when the Toronto Festival of Beer was going on at Fort York.
Mm.
And we didn't want to go, but we could hear all the music, see everything. So I threw a giant house party on the roof of this loft, Niagara and Bathurst, overlooking it. And the rule was everyone had to bring 6 beers you've never seen before, throw them into a cooler, and you grabbed and you got what you got. So that, like, again, opened my eyes. We did 2 of those. Swore the roof was going to cave into that place. We kept setting off the alarm in the wood studio below us. Yeah. Then just got more and more and more. Bellwoods, my buddy lived across the street. We'd go there all the time. That was when all their beers were really bitter.
Early days.
I
remember that.
But then he handed me a Jelly King, and it was like, I don't know if I like this, but 3 months later I was craving it again and again. And then Motley Crue, it's up there somewhere. Motley Crue 2017, I think.
Oh, that was the one, the Passion Fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that.
Blew my mind.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah. I had the 750. My friend came to Bellwoods to meet me, and he's like, "Are you sure you wanted me to get this?" It was
like $24.
A 750 bottle for yeah. And I went back and got 2 more because you didn't have to line up at that point.
That's true.
Yeah. And that really opened my eyes. Fast forward to when we moved out here. So I live in Hamilton now. And my wife was like, 5-year plan, let's open a brewery. And at that point I was like, I've never brewed a beer in my life. Like, you want to open a brewery? I meet my neighbor. Turns out he'd been home brewing for 8 years.
Right.
And one day, one day he showed up on my doorstep and was like, "We're gonna brew tonight," and we just brewed. That was, I guess, 4.5 years ago.
Okay.
And that was like going deep down the rabbit hole.
And is that how you discovered Toronto Brewing?
And yeah, quit my office job. Yeah, I was a customer first. Even from out here, they had everything I needed.
Love it.
I could get bits and pieces locally, but I had to order online or drive in. I'd make excuses. I'd take the long way home. But yeah, that's how I discovered it. Left my office job, worked for a brewery for a while, for merit, and then found myself to Zack in Toronto Brewing.
Love it. That's amazing. Did you start in the Chesswood location, or did you go right to the bottle shop?
I realized that yesterday was 1 year officially.
Nice.
That I've been with the company.
Look at that.
Congrats, man.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
But yeah, I started at Geary, but I flipped back and forth between the two locations.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. I love it. So that's great. So now setting up for the Geary, I mean, obviously the home brewing stuff, we can get more into that. I know this was intended to be more about the bottle shop because, we were just saying off air, I think one of the most under-celebrated things that have happened in the last 2 years is independent bottle shops in Ontario. I feel like as beer nerds, we've all been complaining forever. Like, I live obviously here in Quebec, in Montreal, and we have specialist beer stores everywhere. And it's just the way that people get beer here. On the flip side, up until the last 2 years, you couldn't just walk into a brewery that served food. Like, you couldn't go to Judiciel and leave there with their bottles. Like, they weren't allowed to do it. It's only if they did it, it was like what's the license called? The one with the warehouse, like whatever, production facility license. You could do that for other places. So that's kind of changed now. But there was, I know I could go to any brewery in Ontario and leave there with their beers. But I would have also, if I didn't do that, I would have to go to the LCBO. And then we all know the flaws. It's definitely a lot better now, but there's a lot of flaws in that system. So the optimal situation that could have happened in Ontario is exactly what you guys are. An independent bottle shop curated by beer fans, people who are in the industry. You guys are perfect. Justin, you were working at breweries. Zack, you've been home brewing forever and really sort of ran that whole thing for more than a decade now. So I just think it's amazing that it even exists and that you're able to do it. So you mentioned that it has a liquor license, and from what I hadn't had the chance to go there, but next trip into town this summer, I'm going to come by it and check it out. But you guys can do pours because of that liquor license. Is that accurate?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We've got Vim and Vigor on tap. We've had Sierra Nevada on tap.
Oof.
I think we're getting Barleywine on tap as well.
Mate, that's a problem. Okay. So that's one thing. I don't know if you guys had seen it. I'd been to San Diego in like 2017 or something. And I hadn't traveled much because I'm an immigrant and wasn't allowed to go for a long time. And when I went there, my friend picked me up from the airport and took me right to a place called Bottlecraft. And it was essentially what it sounds like Toronto Brewing is. A bunch of fridges and some shelves with, bottles and cans, everything. They had like a a deli section with artisanal cheeses and breads, and they had like 12 taps. So you could get a pour and just wander around the store, shop, fill up a bag. If you wanted to, they could pop one of the bottles and you pay a corking fee or whatever. And I just thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. That is exactly what you are then.
Yeah.
Fuck yes.
Actually, my first homebrewers conference was to San Diego. And there's a place called Ballast Point Homebrew Mart, and that's the true OG. And they partnered with Chris White of White Labs, and they also have like a brewery in the back, homebrew shop in the front. Wow. And that was one of the first stops that I went to when I went out to San Diego. And I'm like, this is amazing. This just makes sense,
Yeah.
Beer, brew beer, drink beer.
Yep. It's so much, and buy beer even better, so you can leave with some stuff. It's just like the perfect situation. Like as a consumer, it's like it's perfect. Like you actually have like going to buy beer shouldn't be like going to the supermarket. Like it's an actual experience in and of itself, which is what you guys have created. Man, it's fun.
It is perfect. I agree.
Oh man, I love that. So our people, I know Canada is still a little bit more rulesy than say San Diego, but are people allowed to get a pour and kind of wander around and look through the fridges and shelves and stuff, or is it you kind of have to drink in place and then finish the drink, and then how does that work?
Yeah, most people typically like to enjoy the beer on the patio.
Okay.
But if you wanted to, you could grab a beer and drink it wherever you want.
We won't stop you.
Wait.
Yeah, for sure. We've got a great little patio, little private patio, and about 3,000 square feet that you can just wander around and explore all these different homebrew supplies and curiosities, all these different little things. And we've got the beer sorted by BJCP style, Beer Judge Certification Program. So I think that's unique, and I don't believe any other store or bottle shop does that. So basically we categorize it by style. There are about 24 different styles with about, half dozen sub styles, like IPA with, pale ale, IPA, double IPA, triple IPA, Barleywine, black IPA, whatever, and so on, specialty IPA. But we categorize it so you can kind of be guided through the styles from lager to wheat beer to stout and sour beer and so on and so forth, and then you can brew your own. And so we try to bring in not just like the latest hype triple IPA, but also just classic examples of the style. Anything from like just a classic Dab Dortmunder export to the coolest release that's at the LCBO or at the latest brewery. We just bring in anything that we know and love and we think will like enrich people's experience when it comes to drinking beer and brewing beer to style.
That's so sick. I love it. Should we go to the next beer? Then I've got a ton more questions about this. We'll do the
there's no rush. Like we can.
You're good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where are you guys at?
I'm cool. It was more just to fit them in so we could finish at a reasonable time. But if we're chilling, I'm good to take a bit more time. I was just drinking this one fast. I always get excited on the first beer, and then I think is Justin frozen? I think he's frozen. He might have to.
I think that's just how he is. Sometimes
gets a bit stiff, old fella. If you can hear Justin,
I think he's mad. Are
you mad at us? I thought
he's giving us the silence treatment.
Justin, if you can hear, just you can just call back. Maybe I'll kick him out so you can just call back. This happens from time to time. I'll just kick him out. Makes it easier. So who does the curation then? So is it between you and Justin, or are there other people? Like who does it, and then what's the approach?
Yeah, I would say Justin's like really, really taking the reins on it. At first, I was just doing it along with Chris Evans, who's now the brewer at Barvolo.
Nice.
Yeah, he was doing it originally, and Justin is really taking the reins. And Justin's like next level with beer releases. He knows every single beer that's being released the day it's being released. So he's super passionate about it and super knowledgeable.
Very cool.
And we just stay abreast of the latest LCBO releases as well. Some are hard to find. LCBO is weird. You kind of have to go to a number of different LCBOs. Even in Toronto, when you have like a really big LCBO, it doesn't have all of the beer. So if you, they do a really good job. But in general, if you go to a bunch of different LCBOs, you'll get like a really good beer selection, just a different variety at each one. And so we kind of hand pick all of the best ones. Like they have a lot of like really great Belgians that you wouldn't really know, but when we categorize it by style and we put them all together, you can kind of see how it all comes. We have like reverence for the style, and we kind of showcase them stylistically, where at the LCBO it's just like on a shelf in the corner at the bottom, and it's just like, this is Rochefort 10. This is like one of the best beers in the world. People should know about it. It should be at the top.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think it's dope. So Justin, we're just talking. If it cuts out, just dial back. It's no problem. This is not uncommon. It's all good. It's part of everyone's used to it. It's a world of virtual things. Shit happens. It's all good. We'll talk about the curation, and we'll just talk about who does it and how does the curation that you guys are doing. I love that you guys have to go to the breweries individually, I imagine, but also go to the different LCBOs to bring in those like the dabs and all the different types of beer that maybe you wouldn't find in the independent bottle shops. I've only really been to one so far in Hamilton, and I wasn't that one was specifically all local stuff and sort of very sort of niche as far as their approach to the styles and everything. For you guys, it's cool that you have to go to the different LCBOs because you're automatically given this like really dope range that, because you've gone out of your way to pick it up from all these different places, it brings that all home. So you sort of really have curated it in a much deeper level than just rocking up to the nearest LCBO and just being like, cool, just give me a bunch and that's it, and then stopping there. So I think that's super important. I imagine that's really a big part of the attraction for your customers.
For sure.
It's also working with specific importers for those beers to get things that don't even hit the LCBO.
Okay.
Zack had built this relationship prior to my arrival, and a lot of the orders, I mean, they take months to come in because they're private orders. Of course, they still have to go through the LCBO warehouse, but it gives us access to a lot of things that are either hard to find, like one of the next beers coming up in the selects, or just not available. They're not listed by the LCBO. So you have to wait for them to get tested. They have to go through the whole process of getting alcohol tested. I mean, the West Mall extras that we just got in, the LCBO had to cross out the alcohol content on every single bottle and relabel it because it might have been off by a point in the percentage.
That's so ridiculous. I mean, I get it. It's bureaucracy, but damn, it's a lot of work, a lot of pointless work. But okay.
There's literally like a Sharpie on each bottle.
Each one. Changing like that one to two. One. They must have thousands coming in. Like, I feel like the Trappist beers are pretty ubiquitous. Like they're pretty much available everywhere. Well, maybe not like they used to be. I remember back in the day they were pretty good, but maybe not so much now, but still. Okay, that's wild annoying. So do you, for the ones where you get the beers from, say like Great Lakes, like because you knew the guys, you go directly to Great Lakes to pick up that beer specifically?
Most of them we get delivered.
Okay,
most of them we get delivered, so it's just about getting on them, placing the orders, making sure that like it's gonna fit in the mix. Like I probably put more thought personally into it than I need to. I like do it over the weekend, and I do it like at midnight, and I just have a running list going of everything that I think would be great, and I'm crossing it off, and there's like a little checkbox beside it of whether that's going to be the ones that come in that week.
Right.
But then in the case of like the Third Moon anniversary or some other releases, or being out here in Hamilton, I can get things sometimes a little bit quicker if I just do a quick loop. If I think it's going to have some sort of impact, or having it a couple days earlier. For Third Moon, I knew for their anniversary beers that we really wanted them there that day. If we wait for the delivery service that delivers their beer, it would have been 2 more days. So, the odd time. There's also certain situations, I don't want to deviate too much, but we did a 24 beer curated Advent pack at Christmas.
Nice.
And, happily it exceeded everyone's expectations and was a huge success, I think. But in order to keep on top of it and make sure we were still pumping them out, it was like
a bit of a thing.
Going like working till 8 and then driving to a brewery to pick up beer, to bring it home, to bring it back in the next day, to keep packing boxes. There was no other way it could really work aside from that. So, but for the most part, we wait on or asking for favors from like any of the amazing salespeople we work with on a regular basis that, would go out of their way to drop off a few cases just so we can like make the next shipping day. Get those people in Sault Ste. Marie their beers.
Okay, so you guys are shipping over the. Yeah, I guess you guys. Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure about the legalities of that. Okay, so the beer stores can ship if you want to. You don't have to, obviously, but you have that option.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you chose to do it just because it's a cool revenue stream, and like you said, you can get this beer that you guys have already curated, mostly local stuff that people up in Sudbury and Thunder Bay or whatever might not be able to get their hands on. So you can get it out to them at a reasonable cost, and it's all. I love that.
For sure. Also, if someone's planning to.
So I was just going to say one-stop shop for beer.
Yeah. Love it.
But also, if someone's planning to brew a specific style and they're ordering all those ingredients, why not grab the epitome of that style? Like, we had Saison DuPont for a long time. If you're brewing a Saison, why not grab what everyone bases their Saison on? That's,
exactly
an American Pale Ale, Sierra Nevada.
Yeah.
So I think we also sell inspiration as well. So
that could be an episode name, Selling Inspiration. I like that. Okay, sick. So as far as the curation, so the things that you choose, like what's the thinking behind the stock? Like obviously you could curate anything. There's a shit ton of beers in Ontario alone. You guys are, which I didn't really think about as an option, but of course is the LCBO like you mentioned. Yes, and can you put my charger laptop? Thank you. My girlfriend helps me out during the pods. It's a beautiful thing. I didn't plug my laptop in like an idiot. I don't know what I was thinking. Like not everyone would go to the LCBO to look at those additional options because that means therefore perfect. Thank you so much. Therefore, there wouldn't be many places I would imagine that would have those European lagers and all those different things on top of the best of Ontario and some of the hype stuff, maybe some of the not so hype stuff. Like, when you guys started this, what did you want to create? Like, what was the sort of vision in mind for the what you were going to provide to consumers?
Yeah, so like I was touching on before, arranging it by BJCP style so people can have world-class examples of each style and sub-style, and then brew that type of beer at home. As like Justin was mentioning, you can grab all your roasted barley and your Irish ale yeast, and then grab an Irish stout type of thing, and then see how it stacks up.
So it more comes from the place of the homebrew, being that your clientele are homebrewers who would very likely want to purchase a larger or wider range of styles. Maybe things that aren't as cool like an Irish Red or something like that maybe aren't flying off the shelves, but the people who are buying your grains and yeast and hops and everything are highly likely to want those styles as well for that comparison sake, maybe drink the style that you're making on brew day or something like that.
Exactly, and also grabbing all the beers that, showcase different hops or different yeast or different collaborations with like Barn Owl malt or escarpment yeast or something like that. Yeah, really just getting all the beers that we know and love and want to share to people because they're like dear to us and they matter to us in a way of like being inspired by the alcoholic beverage or to brew something similar.
I think that's a fascinating approach though. Because I didn't consider that.
Yeah.
You can say something?
It's definitely anytime an opportunity like that comes up, like single hop beers are an awesome study on that hop type. So when someone's interested in, I mean, we just got in Fairweather Sabro. It's a great example because, you know, and you're going to hate me for this, but it's like my least favorite hop. I really generally, yeah, it is very divisive.
Yeah.
But that particular beer shows it in a different way. Like they had a delicate touch. So to me, it's like white gummy bear with a touch of that coconut that you'd expect, and then like a touch of woodiness, and it finishes dry. So it just kind of shows another way that hop can be used that it's not regularly. It's usually people just like layer it or throw it on thick, where, you know, it's a delicate touch that could do it, and that's their Menagerie series. So we tend to bring in a lot of those because it can showcase it in a different way. Chronicle had another great one that was, it was called like Hulk Smash, and it was a hazy made with only Pilsner malts and Mosaic. Like, you wouldn't think that would, I mean, homebrewers wouldn't think that would work, but they managed to do it and do it well. And, you know, it showed multiple things you can do in experimentation. And I know that is like a big thing for homebrewers as a whole. It's a big thing that Zack has been preaching since day one, like making one of one, making a beer that's like exclusively yours. And, you know, a brewery is making hundreds of those cans, but it's still like that sense of excitement you get from experimentation, trying something new, or trying something new that someone else has done and pulled off, and it's worked out. I think that, like, I come at purchasing that way as well. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. And then I think then, Zack, what you meant by, were you saying that you guys would maybe prioritize beers that use the same ingredients that people can buy in the store, such as Barnell malts or the escarpment yeasts?
Yep.
So like someone was about to buy this yeast and be like, well, this beer right here was made with the exact same yeast, so you can actually try it, you know, on a professional scale and see it. That's sick.
Absolutely.
That's unique.
Definitely. Yeah, just this week, Burdock released Barn Lager, and it was Barn Owl malt, which the store carries. They didn't really go into much detail on anything else in that beer. I think in one of the write-ups, I read that they use Canadian hops as well, but I'm not 100% on that one.
Okay.
But we all, yeah, exactly.
It's perfect, though, so people can see what it's going to kind of, or could potentially taste like, and they could even sort of drink that beer at the store whilst they're shopping for the ingredients to make that. Like, yeah, this is perfect. It's exactly what I want to make.
That's the vision,
dude. That's so cool.
That's the vision.
Man. That's so fucking cool. Like, I never thought.
Seriously.
Yeah, I never thought of that as like it's like a whole new concept. It's like taking the concept of the store and then just amplifying it to make it extra relevant, like hyper niche to your specific customer, whilst also easily satiating any discerning craft beer drinker or new craft beer drinker for that matter in Toronto. I love it. I think that was just super smart. It's very cool.
I don't know if I missed it because it went when I was cutting out there, but I'm not sure if it was mentioned that our fridges are actually behind the counter as well.
Okay.
So when a lot of people come in, you know, they see all the beer behind the counter. We have 6 doors, 9 doors, 6 doors, I think.
Lots.
9 doors. Lots.
6 up front, 3 in the back.
6 up front. Yeah. So they come in, they see the fridges all across the front. Above that, the ranges of the BJCP styles, which, you know, for the average beer drinker might wonder what the heck that is. but it also opens a conversation, so it allows us to kind of totally nerd out and, you know, guide them through the process and why the beers that are in there. Yeah, I think that's also really unique, and it was a great choice by Zack to do that when the store was opening.
Right.
Because it just like opens up that conversation. So at the same time someone's buying beer, if they want to learn something about that beer or about the process or how to make it themselves, we're there and we're ready, and you know, we're game.
Give that bit of extra sort of insight and sort of like guide them through it, regardless of if they know what they want or not. I wonder what percentage of the clientele are coming in and be like, hey, like, I want to brew a Pilsner. You got any like Pilsners I could try to see? Like, what percentage do that, or what percentage are just like coming in to just, oh, sick. I've been to Blood Brothers. I can come down here and grab a bunch of other stuff to go. I had a friend from Vancouver who was at Blood Brothers, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and he was sending me photos. I'm like, well, bottle shop's just down the street. Go check it out. I think it was after 7. I think you guys had closed, but I was like, you know, worth heading by. But it was cool because it was the first time he just randomly messaged me photos from Blood Brothers. I was like, oh, you're in town. Okay, cool. Like, you should go there, because he didn't really know where everything was. So I thought that was like a really cool real-time example of like, well, someone I know is there, and it's the perfect sort of, you know, whether you go either way, whichever one first, but you're able to get the brewery experience and get the sort of bar experience with the bottle shop kind of all in one in this one street. It's very, very cool. But yeah, like what percentage of people are like the home brewers trying to, you know, learn or like figure something out versus the average consumer just trying to pick up some fire beers?
What do you say, Justin?
I'd say, you know, the majority of our customers, a lot of our customers, probably 60% are homebrewers that are coming in to get their ingredients, and they'll come up and they'll throw in some beers with that order. Actually, probably more like 65. Yeah, they're grabbing beers to go along with what they're doing, or they'll start a conversation, and it's an excellent opportunity to make some recommendations. I mean, at the end of the day, we're there to help them homebrew. We have the beer as well. You know, why not tie the two together? At the same time, we have had a lot of growth in, you know, people that come specifically to us because they know we have things that either no one else does, or, you know, so that's that 30%, 40% or so that now come to us on the regular, place orders for pickup on the regular, which they can do through our site, or for shipping, you know.
Right.
Again, they can do that. So
yeah, that's great. So it's like the majority of the customers are those kind of the home brewer customers. So that explains really that dedication to that breadth of styles that, you know, maybe if a store was mostly catering to what's popular, what's trending right now, they, you know, it wouldn't make as much sense to be stocking these things, but you guys really carry. Okay, I love it. I don't know why. It's just so fascinating to me. It just makes so much sense why you guys do that. Don't get us
wrong. We still do have the exciting hype and trending stuff. Just not slushies.
Well, a lot of them don't. You guys don't like them, or just because they don't ship?
We stocked them since the slushy incident of 2020.
Oh, you guys had an incident?
Yeah, let's just move on from the topic. No slushy beers.
Okay, well, I'm team slushy all day. Let's go. But, you know, speaking of hype beers, this next one is definitely, this way. We got Town and Fine Balance Symbiosis, a lactose IPA. Team Lactose, you know the vibes. Great selection. You guys ready for this bad boy?
Let's do it.
Yes. Just gonna grab it.
Yeah, grab it, boys. No problem. So this, I'll keep everyone entertained. So this beer is something I saw them when they made it. I'm friends with Jeff from Town. I know Andrew at Fine Balance. Great dudes. Very excited for this one. What a selection. Why did you choose this one?
I could not send you a lactose beer.
Yeah, you know, Justin.
But I'm definitely not team lactose. I will also say that. Andrew can attest to that too. That for a long time I fought, but I fought bringing in oats and cream, and the gelato sours. Strictly, the biggest reason, to be honest, is because out of 4 staff that worked in the shop, one was vegan and lactose intolerant.
Damn it.
The other was kind of like lactose sensitive. And to me, a lot of breweries overdid it on lactose for a long time.
They did. Even as a lactose fiend, they did. You're right.
So I was won over by oats and cream and the strawberry vanilla gelato beer specifically. But then this one came along, and it was like 2 shop favorite breweries, like breweries we love to work with that have helped us out a lot, but also just put out like banger after banger.
Yeah.
And
it's a mix of the Astro Ever After from Town and oats and cream from Thingy. So I'm just checking out with the Untapped on to see what the hops were. But I love when they do those mashups. Okay, so it just made sense for you guys to at least get this one in because you love the breweries anyway. Yep. We're
actually working with Andrew and Fine Balance on a collab coming out in, I think, the end of July.
Can you speak to what that might be at all? You don't have to. You can keep it in suspense.
It's going to be a dry hop pilsner in the vein of Precipice. They're in New Zealand, but with U.S. New World hops.
Nice.
But still with a nod to the old. So,
love it. Here for it, boys. Get it in ya. Oh, it smells.
Cheers.
It's fire. As expected. Yeah, the lactose is kind of subtle in this. I feel like Fine Balance does it really well. I always thought it was really strange, in a good way, that they chose an oats and an oat cream IPA as their flagship. But I don't know. They managed to find like a nice balance, because you are right. I feel like around the Milk Shark era, like 2017, that's when lactose kind of went a little crazy. I was here for it, but it did get a little far, and people got kind of pissed, understandably so. I feel like now though it's not what it used to be. No one really cares. But so if you are going to use it, use it right.
Well, like as I mentioned, with the fridges behind the counter, people heavily rely on our recommendations or on our guidance. So if 25% of the staff.
Ooh, froze again?
I think he's just mad again.
This is at that point in time.
Oh.
And I cut out again.
He's going. Justin? Is that...
Maybe boot him, so he's got to come back.
Yeah, there you go. It'd be easier. Do you know the hops in this beer? They didn't say.
I do not know, sir.
No, well, it's okay. I'm not.
What are you thinking?
What
do you get?
One of my guesses, I can't remember what's in Astro Ever After, but I know Jeff loves Idaho 7. It's like both of our favorite hop. So I feel like I know it's Square Wheel's main one. Do you know the hops in this, Justin, at all? Off the top of your head, because it's not on Untapped. No one's talking about it.
Sorry, I'm just back in. I know it was definitely more evident before, but I could definitely taste the blueberry of the mosaic that Fine Balance uses. They kind of have this special pick of mosaic that's phenomenal. That's just pure blueberries, and it's faded a bit. Now I can taste the Nelson that would normally be in their oats and cream.
Oh,
nice. I know.
Yeah, okay. Nelson.
Maybe it's too cold. Yeah, like Oats and Cream is Nelson, and Astor Ever After is Mosaic.
Oh, that's
so
what
I think it's just those two hops together.
That would make complete sense. It's great.
But
great
Fine Balance has this Fine Balance has this one batch of Mosaic that is just like, it's nuts. I haven't got that blueberry from Mosaic in like at least a year.
Yeah.
It's
spectacular. Well, this is only like 3 weeks old though, so like it's, these guys both hold up really well. So it's super fresh. Love it. Yeah. So
you really get the snozberries.
I do love a good snozberry. Underutilized fruit. Yeah. They nailed this. I was very happy to see them collab. I've seen good ass breweries collab like that. As far as like, is there anything you guys wouldn't stock? Maybe is it probably a good question, or is it like, is there anything you guys are like, aside from slushies, which we won't go into, but is there anything that's sort of off? You really just not for any like negative reason, where it's just like that's not really what we want to offer.
Non-alcoholic beer.
Okay. And any particular reason?
We talked about that.
Maybe we would. It's all about good examples of the style. So I guess if there was a really good one, we would probably have like one of them. We got like a Willibald seltzer. We've got some ciders.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah. Down for anything really. It's all about like education, and it's not just about selling stuff. It's about teaching people things and spreading the love of beer and different breweries and releases that we love. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are you guys really trying to sort of like you mentioned with the Third Moon, which was only a couple weeks ago? It was like 2 weeks ago for their anniversary. Those are a very, very hyped drop. There was like 11 beers this year, which is pretty insane. Are you guys really trying to sort of be on top of those sorts of drops where you're making sure you have the newest, freshest, like as far as the local stuff? Because obviously, if you go to the LCBO, you can get all the fantastic examples of Belgian and German and European stuff for the clientele that you have that just need an excellent example of a style to sort of use as a guidepost. Because like you were saying, it's been a while since I've homebrewed, but I did enjoy the process of sort of drink, because homebrewing takes so damn long. It's kind of cool to be able to drink numerous different examples of that style while you're making it, and it just makes it more of an experience. So as far as the other side of stuff, like, are you trying to be like a go-to spot where if Third Moon's got a drop, or Badlands, or Willibald, who in that realm, or Barncat, or Rouge River, Fine Balance, or what I'm talking about? Are you trying to make sure you have all those newer stuff like ASAP, or is it kind of not really much of a concern for you guys because of the volume of clientele that are more that homebrew folks than maybe like the people who are sort of just regular drinkers seeking stuff out?
It's Justin, but I think we try really really hard to have like a lot of the really great new releases. You can't get like all of them. You really have to be committed to get every single new release from all those breweries that you just specifically mentioned.
Yeah.
Some weeks you have them, some weeks you don't.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead.
We tend to kind of rotate between Badlands and Third Moon depending on the week and what releases are coming out.
Gotcha.
Definitely noticed like double IPAs don't, just with our clientele, just don't move at the same speed as regular. So, if Badlands is having just double IPA release, it'll flip to Third Moon. A lot of them are rotating, and Willibald's quickly become part of that rotation too. So we bring in a lot of them, but not all of them. So we kind of try and catch the ones that are standing out a little bit more in terms of style or something exceptional that they're doing. We know they're going to be good either way. Every beer they put out is solid.
Yeah.
They're some of the best IPA brewers in the country.
Oh yeah,
if not, I'll say North America. But yeah, for sure. But they need to kind of fall into some sort of category that works that week. I try even look at releases that will work together. Like if this is going to trigger someone to buy this, or things that are related. Two different beers that use the same yeast at the same time. Like I'll look into that. Yes, that's super nerdy, but when you can throw that little bit of information to, the beer curious, it can also, catch their eye, and they're like, you know what, maybe I'll try that.
That's fascinating too. Yeah. I guess that works well for that clientele again. So you can be like, hey, this new, I know that, didn't Escarpment drop a new, like a juicy, like a New England yeast something recently? I'm on their mailing list, so I see all this stuff. So if they drop that yeast, these two guys use this.
Yeah.
Libre.
Libre, yeah.
Yeah.
So we jumped on, I think it was Conjuration 11. It was a pale ale that Third Moon did, and they only just said they used an experimental yeast from Escarpment Labs, and that was like pre the release of the yeast that we knew was coming to the store. Funny enough, and this is according to Third Moon themselves, like it's one of their lowest rated beers, but it was super cool, and people enjoyed it and talked about it, and in the shop. And since then, Escarpment has learned more about that yeast, and we've had other beers that have been made with it as well. Right now, we have one from Shortfinger called Bobo Libre, and we have that actually on display in our fridge with the packet of yeast and behind it, so that if anyone comes in and wants to know about it, we can talk about that at the same time.
That's amazing. I don't know why. I just think this is such a genius concept. I've just never heard anything like that. It just makes so much logical sense for your business. And I would imagine that when I was brewing, like homebrewing with Scott, we would that would be the most perfect thing. Like, yo, you got fuck yeah, give me a couple of them, and now you can drink it there beforehand whilst you're shopping and already getting amped for the brew day. I don't know, that's just such in a world where maybe experiences were taken from us for the last 2 years, essentially, for better or worse. Those small things in life kind of, are a little more valuable now. That's so for smart. Sure. I had something that you brought up about the double IPA. So I happened to be, I know the guys from Third Moon, obviously, so I went to see them. I happened to be in town right as they were, the day before they did the launch for their anniversary. So I swung by to see Chris, and he was telling me, and someone else had told me this as well, and this is what I thought was interesting. You mentioned about the styles that don't sell as well with the double IPAs. Chris was telling me that the double IPAs haven't been moving like they used to. And someone else, and I forgot who it was, were telling me someone here maybe would tell me the double IPAs aren't as popular as well because people are broke and fat from the last 2 years, and those beers higher calories, they cost more, there's more going on with them. So maybe in the previous times people were crushing double IPAs a little more, or maybe in 2020 or maybe early 2021, until everyone was like, wow, this is getting out of control. And now the pendulum has swung to maybe pale ales or 6.5% IPAs, kind of like Third Moon and Badlands do. I wonder if you guys have any thoughts of actual real-time consumer data from the store, like what, is that the case? Like people are really what styles are selling more, what styles aren't as popular right now, and any theories as to why? I've been fascinated by that.
Those double IPAs definitely do still sell when someone's looking for a hop bomb, when someone's looking for something full on. But I think part of it might have been, early on in the pandemic, everyone was looking to forget the pandemic first and foremost.
Yeah.
So, and you didn't have anywhere to go. So if you ended up not being able to drive, just watching movies on your couch, it was cool, or having Zoom calls. But as time went on and things started opening up, all of a sudden there's the swing the opposite way. The pendulum swung back, where people want to be able to have a couple and then go for a walk, even if it's 6 feet away from your friend. It's still a fact you can have a few and not be weighed down.
Right.
So I know, like, us personally in the shop, we've all been that way, where we appreciate, like, if someone can put out a beer that's has all the flavor, has, you know, the hop saturation, if that's what you're looking for, or, you know, a dry finish so that you still are ready to drink the next one. It's, you know, you can have more of them. It's like, that's really the bottom line.
Right. So is there any styles that, I mean, so maybe double IPAs might not be as, I mean, obviously they're still popular. Like, yeah, definitely not saying that they're not. No. But maybe, you know, like, there's always like little patches where something's a little more popular than something else. You know, it's just the way that.
Yeah. I think lagers are really popular right now. Like, that's really where things are leaning towards. And yeah, you know, I used to want to crush a double IPA. Like, how hoppy can we make it? How many IBUs can we fit in this beer? But, you know, now I just want to drink a beer, and I don't want to get, like, wasted on a Tuesday night or Tuesday afternoon or something. Like, I just want to drink a beer. So I think just like a can of Vim and Vigor, or just like a Pilsner or a lager hits the mark. You know, you just want to be able to drink a few beers or just drink one, and you can still enjoy it very, very much, especially in the summer. Really, any time of year, a lager's good.
Yes,
but
the consumers are really asking for that more.
Yeah, we have a huge lager fridge, and yeah, I think that's where things are really going. It's all, many of the great breweries have, you know, it's all about perfecting like a really good lager. I love how Godspeed does, like, you know, almost exclusively lagers, I guess, or a lot of the time. And it's a craft in itself. It's one of the hardest beers really to brew. So you got to give it up to all those guys for it's a true labor of love when it comes to beer and brewing.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely,
for sure.
Every time I'm in Toronto, I make sure. My brother lives 50 meters from Godspeed, so it's very convenient that every time I'm in town,
so good.
Like, swing down and always grab a whole shit ton, because it's just such a treat to be able to just go on a free. I've had them all, so I've done the reviews, and I have to take fucking photos. I just go in, just grab, you know, the Sklepnik and just shut up and enjoy it. It's glorious. It's a really, really nice. So for you guys, maybe I'd be curious, what's your like top 3 best-selling styles then? Just to try to paint the picture of sort of what people are drinking, because I feel like nobody, like, breweries have an idea of what people are into, but breweries are limited to what they sell. You guys have a larger breadth than an average brewery possibly could ever maintain. So I think you would have a really unique viewpoint into what people are actually drinking and asking for these days.
Like, in specifics, I couldn't really point it out, like a specific beer style, of course.
Like overarching styles, like lagers, like, you know, lagers, double IPAs, pale ales, type of thing.
I would definitely say lagers would be number one, because we can find one within that fridge that's going to appeal to any drinker's taste, whether they want something just super, super easy, super hoppy, or like even a hophead will throw one in the pack when we tell them, you know, about Precipice, again, New Zealand Pilsner, or another dry hopped lager, where they can still get their fill but be able to have one or two and be super cool. So I would say lagers, then IPAs, single IPAs, and then it gets to be a bit of a toss-up. We actually sell a lot of English style beers too. So like, kind of since I've been there, we've always had Muddy York's Major Small. Like, we kind of always keep that in stock. I've made a point of bringing in a lot of like Clifford's brewery only releases, either Brave Captain or Dark Streets of London. And those ones don't move as quickly, but they always do. And someone always comes back for them because they're just really excellent examples of those styles too. And that's just even general consumers. Right. So yeah, it would kind of almost be a tie between the sours and Belgians. Sours, Belgians, pale ales, and English styles. It's really hard to make that like third from the top, because one customer will come in and they'll buy like every single Belgian beer we have because it's a good like breadth. They can grasp all of it at once. So yeah, it gets tricky when you get past those top two, like the lager first, IPA, and then the rest kind of just happens in each one.
With the Belgian, which obviously that's what we're going to get into next, which is a very interesting choice from you guys there, which we'll get into. But what's the popularity of Belgian? I mean, back in the day, like when we first were coming to Toronto Brewing to get all the stuff, Belgians were like the pinnacle of like exciting beers at the time, particularly being in Ontario, which was more of a an English style province. Over here in Quebec, Belgian stuff is kind of a bit more ubiquitous, so it's not as it wasn't as much of a big deal, I guess, because Unibrews in every store, and that's a pretty world class example. Yeah, what's the popularity of the Belgian styles? Like, how are people still excited for that over there? Like, what's the vibe?
I actually have to step away for a second, but.
Yeah, Zach can take that.
Yeah, I think people love Belgian beers, but really, it's all about. Some people come in and they buy like one of each Belgian beer for sure.
Okay.
And it's such a great category because you can get from like the Belgian single, like the Westmalle Extra or Saint Bernard's Extra, something kind of lighter, to a double, which has like a huge malt character, triple, which is a blonde beer but big alcohol, like 9%. Then you get the quad, which is like this hugely imposing, like fruity, malty, chewy type of thing. And then you can get the funkier Belgian, like saisons, and really go down the rabbit hole with it. And they're beautiful beers. They pair really well. They're fun to brew. Great style, and so that's really popular. Like Justin said, IPAs, lagers as well. Can't get enough of them. Like, they're just great styles ultimately.
Of course, yeah. The lagers have definitely seen the. I feel like Ontario was a little ahead of Quebec with the popularity of lagers, and now I think we've caught up out here. So it's cool to see that every brewery, like you said, is kind of like going out of their way to at least make one fire lager, which is super valuable. But the Belgians.
Go. Sorry, I was just gonna say, like, it's a long tail, and there are so many different beer styles, and even like I will mispronounce it, but Ostrolenka Rausch beer, the Beechwood smoked one. I remember I stocked it just kind of not as a gag, but didn't think anyone would really buy it at all, and it like sold out right away. So I think there's appetite for all beer styles, and although like lagers probably sell by the highest volume, it's just because people like can drink them really quick. Well, if you get like a lambic or like an imperial stout or like a Third Moon imperial stout, you might age it for like a couple years before you even drink it. So you're consuming more lagers and more IPAs than the other styles, just by nature of the style itself.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. But it's good to know that Belgians still have like a market and that people are into it. I feel like nobody I speak to, that's why I'm sort of saying that. I know about you, man, but like the most people I know aren't really gone out of their way to buy Belgians, whether they're Ontario, Quebec, or elsewhere. I feel like it's more... I feel like Belgian was the people who were into Belgians, and this is why I was really curious about it, was like at the time, to 2011, 2012, we were discovering beer. there's some, there's local breweries, but like, let's be real, like they weren't like fire back then. Like things were cool, but it wasn't like killer. So Belgians were as exciting as it could get because you couldn't get this crazy. Even like you mentioned before about the IBU wars from, 2013, 14, 15. That was a time that not even anyone locally, or many people locally, maybe Mad Tom when that came out, that was kind of an IBU thing. A few other beers that probably slip in my mind right now. But Belgians were like, I remember going to Sarah's Cafe, it was called, on Danforth, to pay $40 to get the West Veteran 12. I did that like 3 times and split the bottle, the 330ml bottle, with a few mates because it was $20 for whatever.
For sure.
It's 8 ounces or less. But that was like a treat. It was just like such an impeccable experience every time. So I just remembered that time super fondly, but I don't see the same thing these days because they can go to Third Moon, they can go to Battle and get the hype stuff. They get these crazy stouts and IPAs and all this other stuff that's probably a bit more attractive to them than maybe some sort of Belgian beer, So it's nice to see that people are still into that kind of segment and it's still popping up.
100%, and we seek them out and try to get all the great ones. And the LCBO is actually pretty good at slowly but surely getting all of the different Belgian releases, like some classic beers from Rochefort, Westmalle. So nice. We're pretty lucky in that regard. And the latest beers, the latest type IPAs are amazing and lagers are amazing, but I agree that Belgians are definitely overlooked these days, and although I'm drinking a lot of the latest, greatest like Ontario releases or whatever, I still always grab it. I'm just looking at a couple Belgians that I put aside right now. They're great. Like I challenge anyone to drink a Belgian beer and not enjoy it thoroughly, especially ones from like Rochefort and Westmalle and Saison du Pont. Like they're just quintessential examples of the style, and you can just they're 10 out of 10 enjoyable. You can really just like sit back, grab the right glass, get yourself a nice piece of like Beemster, like Dutch Gouda, really nice sharp cheese, maybe a little pate or something, a little pickled pearl onion, throw in a little, music, and just quaff it, enjoy it. It's beautiful. It's a really beautiful thing. Yeah.
Bro, I actually agree. I went to, in 2019, they brought out the master brewer from Rodenbach to Quebec. We did this brewers brunch with him, and I never had Rodenbach before. I didn't really know much about Flanders Reds or anything, and it just changed my life. Like it was the most craziest shit I've ever had, and he was super cool. And they only brought 3 of the different ones here. It's classic and the vintage and Grand Cru, I think, and it was just impeccable. Like it's one of my favorite beers now. And I just bought one that was in Ontario recently, and I bought one of they had the cans of it. Like the regular classic, which is my favorite, just in the can. I mean, I've got a 750 of the classic in the cork and cage, and I got the can. I wanted, like, that's like a really lot of that one beer to drink at once, like a liter and a bit. But I wanted to do like a side-by-side and see what the difference is to have like a Belgian beer, like a real 200-year-plus Belgian beer in a can versus a bottle. Have you tried the can at all?
I haven't tried the can yet, no.
No? I'm very curious.
Bottle.
Okay.
Bottle and draft. I've had Rodenbach on draft in Belgium, on Nitro.
How was that?
Delicious. Absolutely delicious.
Disgusting. Do we want to? This is a pretty good segue for the Belgian, or do we want to hang on for a sec?
Yeah, let's do the Belgian. Let's do it.
I'm excited.
Let's do
it.
Yeah.
I'm to tell my girl.
Just grab it.
Yeah, go for it. I'll keep them going. So this is the
sorry about
segue.
the connection here. It's been garbage.
Yeah. Right, of course. The night we do a pod. Yeah, y'all. So this is super cool. The Belgian beers are something that personally, aside from Rodenbach, I haven't really had as much. So we have a super interesting one right now. Tiff, could you get the bottle, please? Thank you so much. Shasta Tiffany always hooking me out with all the beers. But yeah, so like this is kind of cool. The Belgian beers aren't really something that we drink as much as we should, but I'm definitely more fascinated now to get into them and to learn a bit more about it. That's the one. Looking at the only Belgian beer in that fridge. Thank you. Oh, I guess I need the bottle opener. Thank you. I totally forgot.
That guy?
There we go. That's the one. Perfect. So if we're going to do it up, we're going to do it properly. Tell us, bro.
What's so legit about this one when they showed up, all the bottles from the brewery, the labels were all weird and like off center, and there was yeast on many of the bottles.
Really?
But for some reason, it just made them so much more legit.
Right? When there's when I was saying before, when you were cutting out, I was telling Zach that we were back in the day, like 2011, 2012, I can't remember when it was exactly, but we were able to get like Westlander in 12, and that was back when they sort of imported it, and I think it was literally people were putting it in their suitcase and bringing them back type shit, and they were selling them, and they didn't even have labels at all. They just had those white stickers on them with the only thing official was the cap. So there's something to be said about you got the proper glassware right there. Woo.
I have the worst glassware right now.
It's not as common as it used to be. Tell us about this one, guys. This is a Trappist Belgian double, and I feel like back in the day I wouldn't really have to explain this, but I kind of feel like the people who are into beer now might not be as familiar. They might not have dealt with it. Thank you so much. They might not have actually dealt with it. Yeah. Go on,
Can you point out the cheers? Very nice.
Yes.
That looks beautiful.
Yes.
Gorgeous. Can you point out the Trappist symbol on the bottle?
It is. I can't see it. Normally, it has this like little thing in a circle, no?
It was a trick question. They just lost their status.
They lost the status. What happened?
The monk. Well, I think the monks retired. The monks were old.
Monks are like, fuck it.
There aren't enough monks.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of young kids now. Bunch of tattooed young kids.
Hipster people in Queen West.
Beard, ironic T-shirts.
Going to bands, listening to bands that don't exist yet. We know. So this particular beer, I feel like when the box arrived, I had more questions than maybe I have right now, because I feel like you guys have really positioned, the products that you sell. For this specific conversation, why did you guys choose a classic, which I actually haven't had? Trappist, is it Achel? I don't know how to say it. Yeah, probably. Thinking French. Achel.
It's still a Trappist beer, so although it doesn't have the symbol, it is still a defining example of a Trappist beer, and it is like second to none when it comes to like a Belgian style Trappist brown ale. This particular one,
right? So would this be, because this says Bruin beer, like brown beer? Is it and it's 8%? Is this a double, like a DUBBEL?
Yes, it would fall under as
double.
a double.
Okay,
It's still at that.
I would say so.
The malt profile
is definitely of a double. So it's maybe should we just describe what a double is for those who are maybe a bit new to it? Because, like I said, I feel like there's a lot of people who watch and listen who know what's up, but I think there's like the new era of beer people, like I was saying before, who might have come in around, I don't know, 2018 or something like that, and then like they wouldn't have probably touched this stuff. Like, I feel like it was almost exclusively the era that we got into beer. Well, it sounds like you guys were into it a lot earlier than I was, but I was drinking beer pre-2011, obviously, but I wasn't like proactively discovering beer, I guess, until that time, and really searching it out and then learning about the different styles. So when I learnt about this stuff, it was so deeply fascinating to me that because it was so different to anything else that we could get locally, and anything else I'd had drank previously, which was predominantly fucking European lagers and stuff and whatever. But once, if you got into beer in the last few years, it's very unlikely people would have maybe just stumbled across Trappist beers in their travels. So maybe do we want to talk about what a Trappist brewery is, and then maybe the difference between like a single, double, triple, and quad? That might give people a bit of context. You guys could probably describe it a lot better than I could.
For sure. Justin, you want to take this one? You look...
Or was he frozen again?
Laser eyes.
Well, he's really having bad luck tonight with his thing.
He looked like he was really concentrating on giving
the question, right?
Very serious answer. So I'll jump in. Trappist beer, I think Justin was mentioning it. It was one of like the first real craft beers, or I don't know if it's craft, but non-macro lager type of beers that I first tried. Chimay Red,
yes,
which is very similar to this. It's an 8% imposing yet refined, delicious Belgian beer that is hugely flavorful and malty and rich, but dry and still crushable. Like you could crush like 2 or 3 of these on a patio, sitting outside in Amsterdam on the canal, no problem. It's just a beautiful beer. It's super clean, but it's got some nice aromatics from the yeast. Great, beautiful complexity, but simple. I could go on forever. Just a beautiful beer. And its bigger brother would be the quad.
So is it triple? Because triples are usually, it's like 8, 9, 10 type of thing. Like this is 8, triples are 9. Excuse me if I'm wrong, but that's what I remember.
In terms of alcohol percentage?
Yeah.
I think you could be like 7, 8, 9, 8, 9, 10. No one's really counting. You just want to be like, it doesn't matter.
That's true.
I think like 8 or 10. But the double is going to be closer to 8, and the quad's going to be 10 plus.
Okay.
A triple is going to be somewhere in between. So yeah, roughly 8, 9, 10.
But you are correct being that. Okay. But I guess I was thinking ABV, but you are correct when you said the quad is like the big brother of the double as far as the similar type of beer. The double and the quad are darker beers, whereas the triple and the single are the blonde beers. So I never really thought about that way. I was always thinking in the ABV, like climb. Yeah. So even with this one in a double, so it's like it's a strong brown beer, so it's got a nice malt profile. The Belgian yeast give it like a spicy. How would you describe that nose? It's been such a long time for me. Justin switched it up.
Sorry again.
You're good. Oh, I've got that exact same, the artist. I think her name is Davi. I've got Melbourne, Toronto, Montreal right behind the camera there.
Nice.
Is that Toronto?
Yes.
Let's go. We're just talking about the double. What's the nose we're getting here? I mean, it's like that Belgian candy sugar vibe.
Yeah, like a little candy sugar maltiness. Almost like a little bit of clove, like a touch of those phenols you might get in like a Belgian wit beer, but like way less pronounced. Like a little bit of that bubblegum or peppercorn type of thing, but very, very, very slight. But really just all about the malt complexity. Little bit of those Belgian, a lot of those nice Belgian aromatics from the yeast. And, that's really one of the cool things about the Belgian yeast is that, you could take the same malt bill and ferment it with like an ale yeast and ferment it with the Belgian yeast. and it would be like a totally different beer. Like the Belgian ale yeast or saison yeast can totally make the beer itself, and is like one of the defining characteristics of Belgian beer. So that's one of the cool things about brewing, is that you can kind of experiment with different yeast. We have a bunch of different Belgian ale strains, new ones from Escarpment, classic ones from like all the classic breweries. You can like really brew something that's very similar to a Westmalle or a Trappist beer.
Okay.
Yep.
I love it. I'm getting all those flavors. Like, remember that? Like, I always forgot about like the dark fruit, like raisins.
Yep.
It's
bruised
like,
plum.
Bruised plum.
Bruised
plum.
I'm gonna write that down because I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna say Zach came up with that one. Bruised plum. It's very specific.
BJCP scoring description.
Oh yeah, I've always wanted to do BJCP just so I can come up with shit like that. Yeah, man, this is like, it's fascinating because, like I said, it's been so long since I've like sat down and like really like. Yeah. You mentioned you were talking about the cheeses, and I was like, oh yeah, fuck, I've got some cheese with this. That would be amazing because it's got that nice sweetness. I guess, like, you know, sometimes you get, I know here in Quebec they do it all the time, but you get like those jams with the cheese. There's really thick, intense jams you can put on a cracker, and you have the with the cheese or something, like that sweetness complements this type of thing. Yeah, man. Yeah,
little red pepper jelly.
Them joints. You know? Exactly. Jelly.
Little pate, little mustard.
Little foie gras.
You know, little foie.
Yeah, little foie as we call it. You know, around the traps, little foie. Yeah, man.
This particular beer.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. We cracked one of these like 2 or 3 weeks ago at the end of a shift. And it's one of the first that's like really caught me again in a while. Like, being honest, it's not generally a style I gravitate towards as like personal preference, but this particular one, just as it warms, it completely opens up like a red wine. Like, you start getting all of those like subtle notes that just come out, and more than I've got from recent ones. And because we got this directly from the through an importer as well, not through the LCBO, we knew that it hit the LCBO and they got it out of there, like the warehouse, I should say, and our importer got it out of there as soon as he possibly could and got it to us. So you're getting it like as close to you can get it in this country, or at least province, like at its prime. So, and of course these beers you can age.
Of course, yeah.
At 8%, it's gonna hold up, and it's gonna evolve, and more of those dark fruit, bruised plum notes will come out. But it was a really cool example just to kind of show something that we at the shop offer that other people don't. Like, where else are you gonna find this?
Yeah.
Like, a couple other places got a couple cases. We went pretty deep on the Belgians and continue to, and you know, we offer something that other people can't. So
yeah, no, I think that's great, man, and that's what separates what you do and makes it super unique. And it's even like you were saying, this is not a style I gravitate towards in any shape or form, but I was looking forward to it because I thought it would be, you know, if we're going to be talking about this stuff, I imagine it would be a part of the conversation. I was like, all right, let's go. Yeah. And I'm kind of shocked at how much I like it, but two, like, it's just so, like, sometimes I remember Belgian beers being, aside from like the Rodenbachs, but like the Flanders Red style, but something like this, like a double, just they're always like, I always think of them as being this sweet, sticky thing that's like, cloves and all this shit, and it's just so intense. But it's really not that. Like, it's genuinely incredibly smooth. The sweetness is super balanced. All of the spice and herbal kind of elements are sitting just where they need to be. I mean, the bruised plums are out here, but the nice raisins. It's just like in a great. I forgot about the sharp carb in this type of style. Like this is a genuine pleasure. This is like you said, a sipper. Right now, I've got the little the what do you call that? Like the I don't know what's this shit called. Oh my god, why am I having
lacing?
Not even the lacing. No, like the it's cold at the top, and see how it's like there's a cold gap. Because it's just out of the fridge. So I guess what I'm trying to say is going to, like you guys just mentioned, it's going to open up. So I can, I know we have one more after this to do. And that's kind of why I want to just crush that the IPA there, because I know that I can slowly sip this and the next one over the evening. And they're going to be just as dope. And in a different way, in an hour or two, it's going to change. And it's going to open up. And it's going to be a different bouquet on the nose. And the sharp carb will still be there, but it will just have a little different profile. So, like, drinking the beer as it warms in this particular style, or in these Belgian styles, it's an experience in and of itself. Since we're talking so much about experiences today.
For sure.
Yeah.
What's really interesting too is if you still have any of that IPA left,
I did.
They also do the same.
Yeah.
Every beer will open up. Like even Coors Light will open up, but you don't drink that when the mountains aren't blue. Like it's disgusting.
You keep them mountains blue.
Be serious, but
yeah.
They
no, you're right with the IPAs.
Even the IPA.
Right. Yeah. I was telling somebody the other day about the I did a podcast recently, and someone was like, "Oh, the beers need to be a little more room temperature, so take them out." Because I'm in a smaller apartment, I've got a little beer fridge a few meters away, so I usually like to leave it in there. And there was one, I can't remember what it was, but I was like, you know what? When the guest says to do it, I'll do what they say, because this is what the experience we're trying to go for. Took the beers out, and to be honest, I didn't enjoy it even a fraction as much, because I think I like the journey. I like the journey from this ice cold where there's some frost. That's what the freaking word I'm looking for. Bit of frost at the top. That means that this beer is way too cold, and then it's going to I'll drink this slowly over the evening to get the whole experience from top to bottom. But like if I let it just be warm, and then it's just going to go from already kind of warm to like really warm, it's not as interesting. But I kind of like this. I think that's a part of the experience. You get to try the beer as it opens up, and it might just be like after 20 minutes, all of a sudden you're like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" But yeah, man, it's very, very cool. I imagine then that so if people in Ontario want to get Belgian beers, there isn't probably that many points, because when I mentioned before, you can get them from every LCBO. I just thought that's what it was, but it sounds like that maybe that's not the point. Like not the case. I'm sorry. Like it isn't as simple to go and get these super. I'm going to say high-end. I'm not sure if it's necessarily high-end, but if it's a Trappist beer, it's like, it's the highest quality, and there's only a few Trappist beers in the world. I forgot, it's like 12 or something now? Something like that? Less?
Maybe 11. Yeah.
Okay, maybe because they took this one. Haters. But yeah, is it beers like this? It's a great reason for people to come to the Toronto Brewing Bottle and Geary to be able to get this selection of Belgian beers, because you'd have to go to a handful of LCBOs to be able to even find the same stuff.
And some of them aren't available at all. Like
true, you said private imports.
Sint-Benedictus.
Right? Yeah.
Sint-Benedictus Extra 4. The Westmalle Extra, I don't think is in LCBOs, but they were going to get a very small amount. But they'll go to every far corner, and we have a good amount, so we can make sure people get it. The Achel stuff, not at the LCBO at all. And Golden Drac, we had a couple that only come out at Christmas time in a mix pack.
Very cool.
So we still have a couple of the Golden Drac. Monk's Cafe wasn't an LCBO release. We have the Grand Cru and the regular. So yeah, there's a lot.
Is that from Belgium?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Flemish.
So Zack.
Okay.
Yeah, Monk's Cafe is like an OG Belgian beer bar. an importer from Philly.
I've been there.
So they get a Flemish red made.
Okay,
yeah,
that's
I've
what
been
I'm
there as
asking.
well.
Okay.
It's
When we
epic.
went to Philly, like
So-
in 2019, the first thing, it was the only place we went. We were there for one night, and I was like, we went straight to Monk's Cafe, but they had Pliny and Blind Pig on tap. So I was like, well, you know, what am I supposed to do?
I was just there as well and had the same beers, and it was a romantic
Impeccable.
experience.
Gorgeous. What a spot. Beautiful. But okay, that's what I saw it on your website, to be honest. And I was looking through the website, and I was like, Monks. I saw it on the list of all the breweries. Like,
That's their
Monk's Cafe.
beer.
Right. Okay.
That's their beer that they make in Belgium, so that they can have like a Flemish red on tap at their bar.
theirs. Fuck, that's genius.
theirs.
Contract brewing. That's so smart.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's a unique one. It's definitely different than the than Rodenbach for sure. It's got a different flavor profile.
Yeah.
Okay.
So definitely check it out. The Grand Cru is a little sweet. Very good, very good. It is the Grand Cru, but it's a little sweet for me. But the regular Monk's Cafe, the OG,
Mm-hmm.
absolute
one.
classic.
And you guys
Do
keep
it.
that pretty regularly?
No, it's not regular. It's
Oh, it's
like,
not? Okay.
There's like a Belgian importer, Horizon Beers, and they have a list of all this like random stuff that they can get. And I was just like, you can get Monk's Cafe and Monk's Cafe Grand Cru and Golden Drac whiskey barrel age. Like, holy shit! Like, put me down for a few cases, and just put together like a pallet of beer basically. And they're just like, okay, we'll order this in for you, and they get it whenever they get it, like months later. And so we have it now. But then once it's gone, it's gone.
Oh, you have
We
it
don't
now?
know when we'll be able. We have it now.
Okay. I'm going to
And
talk
whatever-
to you. I want to purchase some of that because that sounds amazing.
Yeah, you can grab it online. We'll ship it to you, or you can grab it in store. And yeah, grab it while you can, because you never know these days, especially with supply chain and whatever and LCBO. Like it might not come as soon as you would want it to again. And a lot of these beers you can cellar anyways. All the Belgians, like,
Oh, yeah.
might as well just create a
Grab a
stash right
couple.
now.
Yeah. Okay. I'll talk to Justin. We'll figure that out
Sure.
because I definitely want to. Yeah, right. It's the only way to do it. You got to just keep them on deck. Yeah, when you get opportunities to get beers like that is super cool. And like I was saying, it's a when you get an appreciation for a style like that. I feel like of all the Belgians, that that Flanders Flemish Red is easily my personal fave. So, being that I had been there, would love to. I didn't know that was a thing. If I had known, I would have absolutely
sure.
done it. But that's great. I love it. I love that you guys are even getting shit like that. Like, that's some real beer nerd shit. Like, super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you were asking us how we decide what beers to bring in. Ultimately, it's a silly answer, but we're trying to bring in, like those quintessential examples of the style. But because it defines the style, it's like a perfect beer. But this is it's like Abbey Road or like the Let It Be album. Like, these are just, it is what it is, and it's perfect. It defines a time. And although people started drinking beer now, you can definitely go back and listen to these old albums, drink these older beers, and they're absolutely perfect and set everything up that we have now. And I think when you have like one of those perfect beers, if it catches you at the right moment, it can be this like transcendental experience that goes beyond just like drinking a beer and enjoying a beer. And I know you guys have definitely had those experiences with beers, whether it's at like Monk's Cafe or just sitting at home. A beer can just be like catch you at the right moment, and you can just be like, wow, this is truly amazing. Yeah. So I think a lot of these Belgian beers that we're importing like really hit that mark and take you to that transcendental point where beer meets like life in the universe and like everything just beautifully, and that's what it's all about. If you can try and kind of articulate what we're doing, it's just all about love and discovery and trying to, either get people that moment for the time discovering a new style, or just get them to revisit it and re-fall in love with beer. That's what it's all about.
That's beautiful. You say something?
Well, it's funny as big a beer nerd as I am. Like, I wasn't that familiar with Achel. Like, about 3-4 weeks before we sent this to you, it wasn't like I was familiar with many other examples of a double, but not this particular one. And when we cracked it wasn't quite transcendental, sitting in the shop at the end of a long day, but it definitely, like, you know, caught my attention and is why I wanted to select this one to send to you. Because, and then I looked it up on the BJCP afterwards, and it's the first beer listed under Belgian double. That's like before any of the other,
And that means that's a more pure example of what the style can be?
Yeah. At the bottom of the...
As Justin was just going to say, they define the style, and then they give you examples of it. And so basically, Gordon Strong, or whoever wrote that description, basically got one of these beers and just described what this beer is when they're talking about that very style. And I've only had this times in Belgium, I think maybe in Quebec, but it's just a stone cold classic. You gotta have it.
Facts. Do you guys think
it's
go?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
I was just gonna say, like, a little grace that it's a pleasure sharing these beers with you guys, and it's been a great night.
Yeah, man.
And cheers to the love of beer.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well said. Cheers, boys.
Oh, I might have messed up that pour a little bit.
You gave it the old Mliko. It happens.
I think I got caught on my mic cord. Yeah.
That's okay. It'll settle. It's you know what? Like, I was going to say, like, do you guys? Because what this is really sort of taught me, I think one of the main, like, takeaways from this evening for everyone is about the experience of drinking beer. And I think that's what you guys have really sort of, like, you know, I can't wait, seriously, to check out the bottle shop to see what that's like, you know, the actual experience of grabbing that draft pour and, you know, and learning about it all and being able to look around the store. And then if you think of something like this, I think that's kind of almost what we... Do you think that the experience of beer in the way that you just described, Zach, is missing from what's happening today? As far as, like, those really, you know, it's not even to take anything away, because obviously I'm a haze boy. I love the Crispies. I'm loving the lactose. I'm loving the slushy. I like all the crazy shit. And that, to me, is I really enjoy the whole thing around it. But I wonder if there's an experience that might be, I was going to say missing. Maybe not missing is the word, but maybe just less common than it used to be. Whether it's, like you said, like, you know, if you really, like, I don't know how much are we sitting there really thinking about a beer like we used to. Like, knowing that, hey, man, there were these dudes wearing those big, like, heavy brown fucking hooded things and really, like, making this stuff, and they're not selling it for a profit. They're just making the money to keep the monastery going, and they're in these mountains of Belgium, and they're just, because this is bread. This is their bread for when it's cold and shit. Like, they can live off, you know what I'm saying? Like, are they, like, are we missing that these days? Is that something that's, like, being kind of removed from the beer world, from beer drinkers? Like, what's...
I get what you're saying. At the same time, I honestly think that, like, now is, like, such a glorious time for beer. There's never been a better time in Ontario for beer and craft beer and independent producers. And the love that I see people pour into their breweries, and the beer and the attention to detail. There are dozens of breweries in Ontario that are producing kick-ass beers, that are producing, like, lagers painstakingly, that are producing all of these double IPAs with all these different hops, that are, like, pushing the limits with new yeast and, like, new techniques and everything. So I don't know. I think the passion's, like, there more than ever, and experimentation and love of beer and brewing is like alive and well. So we may not be listening to the albums of the past, um, but you can always go and revisit them. But I think like the new genres and the new styles that we have now are phenomenal, and people are brewing like the quality of beer that we see in Ontario is really better than ever. From lagers to IPAs, they're like world class right now. Like some Godspeed lagers, Czech dark lagers, or some of the IPAs from Barn Cat or Third Moon or Badlands. Like these are really really good. So yeah, didn't mean to rant, but
and
yeah,
even the,
I think it's great. Thumbs up, two thumbs up right now.
And the experimentation as well. Like you can definitely walk up to most of the brewing community, either as someone who works in one of the stores or as an individual off the street. Like, send Bebo a message. Don't send Bebo a message, but send Bebo a message, and he will give you information. He will give you tips. See any of those guys.
Yeah.
And they'll be happy to talk to you about their beer. They're so passionate about it. But good luck trying to talk to a monk. I'm just saying. So to go back to your original point.
Yeah. It's important to drink these. It's like if you're a music lover and then you love new music, but you don't know about like Led Zeppelin or the Beatles or something like that. Like you're like, come on. So you got, even though if you love the new styles, the hazies, the whatever, you got to go back to these old styles, the Belgians, the German lagers and stuff like that, the classic beers. You got to visit them every once in a while, revisit them, know your roots, get back to basics, and then do whatever you want. Go wherever you want from there. But it is important, and to get romantic about the classic styles for sure, and you don't want to lose that. But I think with all these new styles, it's still good. We're in good hands these days with the brewers that we have now.
I like that. You mentioned all the music stuff, and I do music. We do hip hop stuff. We have a rap podcast with my brother, who's a couple of years younger than me, but my girlfriend's cousin, who's 24. He's a super youngin', and it's really interesting you mentioned all of that, because whilst I understand the reference with like the rock stuff, with rap, he's, he loves I don't know if you guys are into the newer shit, but he loves Future and like a bunch of this type of stuff that maybe a dude of my age might be like, it's not really for me as much. But we had this thing on our other podcast where we're making him go back to listen. We give him 2 or 3 albums, and he'll go back to the 90s, listen to like, what, I don't know how nerdy you want me to get, but like Raekwon, Cuban Links, or Cypress Hill, early Cypress Hill shit, or D'Angelo, or fucking whatever. Just all these real, like, he loves it. He said recently, a 24-year-old kid, he was like, the people after listening to all this stuff over multiple months of us telling him every week to go and check out 2-3 albums a week, it's like, man, the music these days doesn't hit the same. Like the quality, the time that people spent, and I'm talking the 90s for hip hop, which is probably the equivalent to the 70s for rock with Zeppelin and all that type of stuff, and the Beatles even earlier. But he's realizing, a 24-year-old kid who's the whole, his world is very different to the world that the three of us grew up in. And he was recognizing the importance of, Nas early, Illmatic and Reasonable Doubt and fucking Cuban Links and like all this type of shit. That music is it's a different sort of like attention to detail and a different sort of approach to it. And I think you can kind of compare it to this, because I'm not as romantic about beer as I am about hip hop, because I grew up in like the late 80s, early 90s getting into it, and I'm like, when it changed to this trap thing, I'm all old school and purist, like, no, this is not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like this. Then I finally like, oh no, I get it. Like you said, we're in good hands these days. Like, no, there are some great artists these days that are taking it that way, but there is really truly something to be said about understanding where we came from, and part of something.
You're You're saying Nos is like Trappist beer?
Yes. I am. And if you're a rapper today and you're making hip hop music and you don't know every word to New York State of Mind, then what are you doing? And maybe that's the same thing. If you're making beers right now, you're making hazy IPAs, but you don't know how to make a Belgian double, maybe you should know.
Well, Nos and Wu-Tang are coming to Toronto this summer.
I heard. Okay, what's the deal? Like they're doing just like a double tour, right?
I don't know, but let's drink some Trappist beer and check it out if you're around.
I thought about going. There's a bunch of stuff. Toronto's going to be popping this summer.
Guys, my battery is going to cut out at any minute.
Okay, should we wrap it up here? And we have one
you
more,
guys can keep going.
Yeah.
But I will have to take off.
Okay. Let's take the screenshot now then, because I do a screenshot for the thumbnail. So we're going to hold up the stuff that we're drinking. And let me grab a couple, and we'll do a little screenshot now, and then Justin and I will wrap this one up. There we go.
You want me to...
You can hold up the glass, you can hold up the cans and stuff, whatever you feel like, whatever tickles your pickle. There we go. There we go. Other way towards your head. Towards your head. There you go.
There we go. I'm horrible at this, apparently.
All right, let's see how we go there.
It's going to be horrible.
It's
what
beautiful.
was I doing?
Zach, bro, Justin, if you're cool to stick around, we'll wrap it up. But Zach, thank you, bro. I appreciate you. Great to see you again, man. I'm going to come see you next time we're in town. Thank you for your insights and for all of this and for all that you're doing for the Toronto homebrewing scene, and now for all the drinkers with the bottle shop, keeping them fed and making sure everything's fire, man. I appreciate you. I think it's really important work that you're doing, man. So much love, much respect. You're a legend.
100%. Thank you very much for having us, and grateful to have these beers with you.
Likewise.
Let's do it again soon and catch up over some Wu-Tang and Trappist beer.
Please, that would be an honor. Let's do it.
Cheers, brother.
All right, my G.
Nice.
Have a great night.
Cheers.
Cheers, bro.
Have a good one.
You too. California. Oh, yeah. Oh, he's necking it. Oh, you are going to have a sleep tonight.
Cheers.
Peace, fam.
Have a good one.
Have a good one, brother.
See you.
You got him? Beauty.
Night, Zach.
All right. How you feel about the... Now, this is how we reconnected, by the way. So we had each other on Facebook forever. Absolutely had met at some shape or form back in the day because you were DJing the parties that my friends were also DJing, Shasta Jayla, and we were attending every week.
When did the beard start? Like, when did you grow the beard? Because I feel like that was a different...
That was a different time. I left Toronto. I moved to Montreal in July 2012. That's why it's almost 10 years. And I started growing a beard. Do you know what I did? I grew my hair because I used to shave my head just like a fucking zero. I started growing it at the end of 2014. So my guess is the beard grew along with the hair.
Okay.
I think that's
so that might be the recognizing factor.
Yeah.
Because
I looked very
had
different.
A crazy memory for faces, but
because then at the same token, hip hop and breakfast. That's what we talked about too, right?
So I never ended up going to that. I knew Justin and
Derek.
Chanel and Derek.
Yeah.
But was going through a breakup at the time.
So
and
there was all these consecutive events.
I was pretty certain she was there every Sunday. So I was not.
Making sense. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Either way, though, we have basic. I thought you worked at my old workplace because you have most of our mutual friends were all my old colleagues from that
hilarious.
job, which is very, very funny. So we reconnected recently because of Chinwag when we were talking about barley wines. Is that correct? That's why, right?
That's
Because you
correct.
knew I was curious. So I saw today, funnily enough, on my Facebook memories, I was drinking my second Barleywine, which was the Brooklyn Brewery. I think it was called something Monster or something. And it was like a 10% some shit. And I was like, yeah, it's not. This is back before I even poured beers in glasses. I was drinking it from the bottle like a real new. Real super new. And I saw that today and I was like, oh, that's funny. So I'd stopped liking barley wines, I guess. And then recently, in literally the last few months, I started on my Wednesday, which is supposed to be my non-drinking night, where I'm drinking 10% Imperial Stouts, or now trying to sprinkle in some barley wines.
As you do.
As you do, and everyone gives me shit about it because they're like, yeah, cool, the night off beer, you're going to have fucking 10, 11% beers, you idiot. But I'm like, well, it's either not drink or you drink that at the end of the night, and it's still, I'm doing mental gymnastics to justify it. So it's okay. Yeah. You know, so you mentioned that Short Finger Brewery, who I believe are in... Fuck, I forgot.
Kitchener.
There you go.
They're in Kitchener.
Okay. And they had a fire barley wine that you were like, you're going to need this one.
I had it last year, and as someone as well that never gravitates towards barley wines, specifically, and I've realized this only in the last year, American barley wines are just not my jam.
And what's the difference between American and English? I think American are more hoppy and bitter. Is that correct?
Hoppy, bitter, and the type of crystal malt they use. So American crystal malt has a different flavor. There tends to be more of a depth of flavor in British crystal malts.
Gotcha.
And you can actually, when you come in next, you can pick up a bag of each of those in your hand and look at them, and it's like the American ones are all one color. The British ones are like a gradient of colors. And it does make a difference, like just the actual barley itself, the way they're kilned, the way they're dried, everything.
Okay.
Most British malts, I believe, are floor malted as well, which you really only ever hear about with like the German
or German or Czech stuff.
The Czech or German, yeah, exactly.
Okay. And this is an English style?
English style.
English style. Okay.
And direct from Rob at Shortfinger's mouth, it has been rested on backyard, or rather, tobacco that happens to grow in his backyard.
Oh, shit. Okay, that's very interesting. That means there's no nicotine
so tobacco
in it, but
leaves.
It's not nicotine, but it's a flavor profile that would come from the plant, because I imagine nicotine could not travel from being rested on tobacco leaves.
I believe that is correct. And that is a similar answer as to what he gave me.
Because it's the same as if you just like put some weed leaves or bud, you let it sit on bud. The THC is not going to transfer. It's just the other stuff. Okay, perfect.
I believe the leaves were dried first, and then it was aged on those, so left to round out the edges. Yeah.
That's kind of fascinating, no?
Yeah,
I love it. Do you have it handy?
I have to.
Yeah,
I have to grab it from back outside where I was. I was actually in my garage earlier. Okay, so I apologize for the reception.
Don't even sweat it. Go grab that, and then we'll swap, because I'll go get it after you come back, and I'll be able to hear you while I go grab it to talk about it. So take your time.
Sounds good.
Yeah, beautiful. So barley wine time. Yeah, I need to go to the washroom. So yes. I'm going to go to the washroom because I wasn't sure how long the pod would go for, but we're here. And, we've been crushing beers tonight. Yo, this has been really fantastic, guys. I can't even express it how impressed I am with the... Tiff, you should try this. This is the Belgian Trappist, Belgian double. I'm really, really impressed with this, guys. I think it's really interesting to see what Toronto Brewing have been doing with this type of thing. Right? It's just so smooth. Yeah, Tiff's always loved it. I've been a bit of a fronter. I fronted heavily, as Tiffany confirmed my fronting. But this, to me personally, it's like I'm enjoying this so much, and I think it's maybe more my open mind towards, I had the very open mind at the beginning, and it's one of those things where the more you drink, the sort of more you're like, oh, now I know what I like, and then over the last 6 to 12 months, I feel like maybe I've started to reopen that back up to like, okay, well, this is interesting now, and whatever. So, I'm still getting that sort of frost on the top there, which means it's still pretty cold. I'm not going to lie, the fridge I put in was a bit on the nippy side. Jesus, I'm burping a lot. But, it's fantastic. So I'm looking forward to sort of wrapping that up afterwards. And it's a good thing now is that the last 2 beers here are something that can sort of sit. Like I finished the first 2, so this one and now the Barleywine will be something that we can crush. I don't know if I've had a Barleywine on the pod. Bless you. Maybe ever. Don't even know. In case people were wondering, I'm drinking this pink shit, which is actually a raspberry lemon Bellwood sparkling water. So I thought it was kind of weird because it's not just regular colored water. And I was like, am I drinking like lemonade or something to quench my cleanse my palate? But no, this is really fascinating. It's really cool to see the way that Toronto Brewing are targeting their customers specifically, knowing that look at that, got the stand goal on my phone on my watch while I'm sitting down. Love it. Yeah, isn't it crazy? Ooh, Trader Joe's recall. Oh shit. Yeah, but it's really cool just to see the way that it works. It's a completely different situation to anything else I've really heard about before. So it makes me happy to sort of learn that this is how things can go. Uncle Justin is back. He got it. He went on the trek.
Running a marathon.
Right? Mate, don't worry about it. All right, so I'm going to swap you. So what I'll get you to do, so I don't want to leave you alone for long. I'll be gone like 30 seconds. Do you want to start? I'll pull this out so I can hear you whilst I'm gone. Start explaining, just hold the can up and show them what this one's all about.
Sounds good.
Might be the first barley one we've ever had on the podcast that I can recall.
Really?
Or at least in quite some time, because we just don't, I don't know, people don't send them, they don't want to showcase them, it's, Oh, show it off. All right,
they're not that common.
Here we go. Tell us
wow. The little bit of delay on my camera is really messing with me. So it's called Hack. So it's an English-style barley wine by Shortfinger out of Kitchener, Ontario. So it's aged in Ontario, grown tobacco leaves. As I was saying, definitely generally not a huge fan of barley wines, period. But this one last year was recommended to me. And this year when it was released, I knew I had to have it. And needed to share it with Craig here. But basically, it drinks almost like an imperial stout, but replacing a lot of the chocolate notes with caramel. I've had 2 of the cans since we got it in, but I had them a little bit cold and let them warm up. This particular one I actually took out of my fridge an hour ago, and it was outside in my open garage. So it's room temperature for sure, and then some. But I wanted to see how it opened up to its furthest extent. And it's doing it justice. Yeah, I'm getting things that I've never got off this before.
Yeah, because you've had it sitting there in the in the garage there. Come on, there we go. So it's called Hack.
Nice.
I've never actually had a beer from Shortfinger. I've heard of them a bunch. I believe they're also aren't they like a homebrew store? That.
Yeah, I kind of left that part out.
Okay, sorry.
No, Rob's the best. Rob is an awesome dude. So they are a homebrew shop. They actually had Well, they waited for everything to come through, and then got the brewery going. But it was one of the goals. So it's, yeah. Rob, my wife likes to call Rob my spirit animal. Like because he does all of this awesome mixed fermentation stuff that we're all over.
Okay.
And the clean stuff, like I don't delve into all that often, and we can't bring it into the shop all that often.
Right.
But this is one that he actually brought to my attention, maybe because he remembers me like talking his ear off about it last year. But yeah.
Okay. It looks very similar to the Belgian double, actually. Nice little head. Sorry, we do the photos as we're going. You know, the vibe's very important.
Nice.
And this is 10%? Yeah. I got to do the fake smile.
This is 10%?
We good? Okay. Fake smile is everything. No, fake laugh is the secret to a good photo that looks like you're smiling.
Your mouth was closed for that one, though, so I don't know.
Well, it's okay.
Did it really happen?
That's a great question, but it's okay because that was just for the. That's just for Instagram. Wait till I do the thing. Okay. Smells great, brother. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Okay. So 10%. Jeez. This is nice. Really smooth.
Did you have it in the fridge?
I did, yes. I did not take it out.
Take it out. Yeah.
So what I imagine, this was kind of what I was saying before.
Oh, man.
I did. I was saying to Zach, I think it was when you were going to get the last one there, that I did a podcast one time where the brewer asked me to, or just said that it was better to leave all the stuff outside, like just leave it on the table here, because that's how it was supposed to be drank, and I just didn't enjoy the experience. I like to have it so that it's changing temperature, because then, like, even with this one here with the double, I'm still getting the frost on the side of the glass there.
Yeah.
So when I come back to that after the pod, like, it's going to be a different beer most likely, and what I'm expecting is it'll be the same for the Barleywine here. Just to be a whole different, a whole different experience. So this bad boy, 10%, and like you said, it is actually, it's a barley wine aged on Ontario-grown tobacco leaves. Did he say what the point of that was?
I think initially it was an experiment that he might have done on a small scale, since they grow naturally on his property.
Right.
But he just went for it. Okay. And I really dig it. It's like, when it's cold, I find it comes off as a bit vanillin, a little bit honey, like the tobacco leaf portion, and almost like the aroma of freshly rolled cigars. With how warm I'm drinking it right now, I actually get smoke, which is, again, nothing I gravitate towards ever, but it's really nice because it's a very smooth.
Freshly rolled cigars, eh? That's an interesting...
I remember being at the C&E as a kid, like in high school, being at the X in Toronto, and like I couldn't believe they were doing this, but in I'm trying to think of what it's called. It's changed names so many times, but it's like the big convention center at one end. It's a newer building, looks really modern.
Okay.
They had this international village set up, and they had a Cuban expo. And there was a person there rolling honey-dipped cigars. They would roll them and just give them to you. Wow. And I was in high school. They shouldn't have been doing it. But the smell, even, like, it was so aromatic. And it was just, honey-dipped cigars.
Interesting.
And it, like, oddly enough, brings me back to that.
I feel when
that was around the time that.
Go on. I feel like I'm getting a honey or molasses vibes from this, though.
Yeah, there's definitely molasses, definitely caramel.
Yeah.
When you were off camera, I was talking about how it reminds me, especially when it's colder. It at least the first two times when it's warmer, it's a little bit different, but it reminded me of like an imperial stout, but swap out all of that chocolate for caramel and everything that's associated with the caramel.
Yes.
So the layers.
That's how it was sold to me. That's how Barleywine was sold. I was like, think of why you love. My friend Noah from Beerism here in Quebec was like, why do you love imperial stouts? And yeah, it's like that big chocolate. It's like thick and sticky and like, you know, it's really well rounded. He's like, all right, so all of that. So just swap out the chocolate for caramel and a little bit nutty, and that's a Barleywine. I was like, all right, that sounds fun. And that's basically what it's been. This is like a really, really fantastic example of the style. Like, this is fucking fire. Yeah.
And it's hilarious because Rob just like pulls these styles out, and it's not something he regularly does. He like maybe does one. Well, he does this once a year. As far as I know, before he started Shortfinger, he was at Indie Ale House.
Okay. Brewing there?
With Jeff Brodeur at that point. And I think possibly Spinny from Merit had like passed through around the same time. Those were all like the kind of the start of the new era, like the head brewers from all the different breweries. They all kind of cross paths around that time. So I don't even know how much he would have been doing in this range, like at Indie. Like,
no, they wouldn't really.
They didn't.
For that.
They did American like double IPAs, like Cock Puncher, which they just came back with again. But yeah. So it's awesome that he pulls something like this out, and it's just like 2 years in a row, just great.
Killing it. Is this the specific year one? Do they have them like separated by year for this?
He doesn't do that. I think he's not a closet nerd. I think he is a nerd in general. He calls it the darkest timeline. The darkest timeline is all of the beers that have a label like this. We have another one at the shop right now, which is an imperial stout called Smalls.
Okay.
Similar label, but it's an imperial stout, like s'mores stout. Really, it tastes like chocolate, marshmallow. There's not a lot of graham cracker going on, but it's delicious too. The one to catch every year, though, and I cannot remember what it's called, is a mint chocolate chip imperial stout.
Interesting.
And I he offered it to me, and I didn't have space in the fridge or something at that point, or thought it was like a little bit like, I love chocolate mint. Like, I'm super, super into it, but the other 3-4 people I work with don't, and it's very weird.
It's a weird one. Yeah.
I love it. Like, after eights, I get them every Christmas, especially white chocolate and candy cane is like my jam. Anyways, I threw too many of them off around Christmas with bringing in like one or two that were along those lines. So I was like, okay, I need to not order that one for Rob, but that one is one to catch next year. If you can get down with that. It's so balanced when he's done it that like I said, my wife calls him my spirit animal. I shouldn't be saying that so many times. If he sees this, it's going to be weird.
No, he'll understand. He knows what's going on. Okay, now this is dope, man. Like, it's very cool. Like I said, we don't really do. I feel like this is what you've really curated, like a real nice, like a couple of really incredible collabs that are more on the modern style, and then something a little bit more traditional in the double, and then now the Barleywine that like I said, we don't do either of these two styles too much on here, so it's extra interesting to me to sort of hear about it, to see sort of how it fits. How does Barleywine sell overall? Like, is that something that people, because I always feel like, a lot of me in the conversations that I have with other, people in my, beer creators, bloggers, writers, whatever, we talk a lot, and it seems like in Ontario, like something like Barleywine is less available than, say, here in Quebec.
There's definitely less producers that do it, and it's very, very seasonal. He actually came out with this beer. I don't know if it has a canning date on it, but it wasn't even that long ago. It was the last in the series of the Darkest Timeline. So yeah, they're not that available, and when they are, they're kind of few and far between. Reverence and Third Moon just.
Oh, they did the.
There's diehards.
There's
diehards. Yeah, so Finisher, but Reverence just released 3 more.
Okay.
That were, I think they're all 3 of them are technically a collab with Third Moon. Kind of in line with the anniversary as well, but kind of went under the radar. We didn't get them in, but there are 3 different barrel types. So there's a sherry, a bourbon, and a wine, I think. Cool. So we didn't get them in. Again, like barley wines, they don't sell like crazy. That being said, I feel pretty passionately about this, and it says a lot about when beers are like behind us, behind the counter, and someone's looking for things, like if we recommend something and we can stand behind it and we can explain it well, it helps everyone. It helps people like try something they might not have otherwise. And it's awesome when they come back the next week and they're like, I had that. I wouldn't have bought it, but I did, and it was awesome. And like, what can you tell me about this week?
Right.
And like, I gave you kind of a percentile of where we sit, homebrewers to not, and the longer we're open, the more we have those people that didn't realize we had a bottle shop, even though it says bottle shop above us. They either don't realize we have a bottle shop, or they come in and say like, do you make your own beer? And it's like, no, we're not a brewery. That's down the street. But like that number is skewing as people kind of start to realize that, we're not a brewery, but they can come in and have a similar experience, but we're pulling from everyone else's expertise at the same time. Like, we're showing them an experience unto itself. And I think that's,
and beyond.
Best of the province, and then having that Belgian specialty. So if someone shows interest in that area, we have Ontario examples and we have Belgian examples,
which is amazing. No, it's
and
super
they
cool.
can compare and contrast too. Like, I have like a draft created for this Belgian 6-pack that is a mix of like Ontario examples with Belgian examples of the same styles and how they compare, but then we keep on like selling out of one of them, so that I have to rewrite the whole it's back end software stuff, but so it keeps on getting shuffled. But I've been doing that for lagers, like creating 6-packs, showing that lagers are like, there's differences between them. They're not just all like golden, like flavorless beers. Like you can have like either minor or major differences. The earlier version we did of that were like everything from like a Munich Dunkel down to, I think it was like a Czech lager. So just like spanning the entire gamut.
Right, and just giving people like an easy way to test a bit of everything and just be like, hey, when
For
you
sure.
curated this 6-pack, I trust you. I already
Yeah.
shop here.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Then they would come back the next week and buy like, maybe the Dunkel wasn't for them. It was like too malty or whatever, but they enjoyed it. I told them to drink that one last, like before you go to bed.
Right.
But they come back the next week and get like the 2 others that were like maybe a little bit lighter, or like the Vienna lager because they like the malt profile. And all of a sudden they realize, shit, I like malt. I never knew what I liked. I like malt. Or shit, like hops do not have to be bitter. Like all of these things. I don't like hoppy beers.
Right.
Well, this one tastes like overripe pineapple. Like it doesn't taste like bitter hops. So that's
right. So
an
there's
interesting
education,
factor.
a lot of education that you're sort of doing for the average, which I think is super key, because if there's people who, if you're explaining that, that means you're getting people in the store who aren't, super like maybe like us, where they're just hella beer nerds or whatever, but you're educating maybe people who are in that gateway phase where they're into craft beer, they're trying to figure out what they like. I think that's an essential service for the growth of craft beer moving forward. I know.
It's even homebrewers though, like even homebrewers not knowing the style, like they know what they like, or they've heard the word Pilsner and they've made a whole bunch or tried to with Brewer's Best kits or Cooper's kits or whatever, but they want to fully kind of grasp what they are looking for, and we can kind of offer them something that fits that style.
Which is perfect.
Yeah.
Both to make it and to drink it. It's just like, you guys really just have like such a sick model, dude. Like it's very, very cool what you guys are doing. I hope that, are you planning to maybe, that was kind of was going to ask you both, but are you, being that the lease goes to the end of the year, like I don't know if you can speak on it, were you trying to see if you're able to keep this spot, and if you're not able to keep this spot, were you like, all right, cool, let's find another spot for the bottle shop?
I don't know how much, but there's been discussions. I'm definitely interested in keeping the bottle shop going to some degree. Whether it's in that location
or elsewhere,
chances are not. But I live in Hamilton, so that's also been talked about.
Okay.
So
that's a beautiful thing. And the Hammer's only 45 to an hour away. Like, it's pretty cruisy, close by.
Yeah. We have customers from all over Ontario that drive in on a regular basis, be it like an afternoon or a weekend. Like, I have people come in from... I've had people come in from like Owen Sound, which is like 3.5 plus hours north in the winter to like come in and buy things. So, and we ship around the province anyway. So like as long as that model can continue, like the shipping model, it's we'll see. We'll see. Everything, like literally nothing is
like locked in,
carved in stone, or even beyond initial discussion phases. To be honest,
no, that's fair. It's only May, so you've got 7 full months to see where it can take you, what you guys are able to do. But Matt, I think this is great. I feel like we really got a nice understanding of what you guys do, and once again I was super stoked to chat, one because I had history with both you guys separately, which is super funny and fantastic coincidence, but also, like I said, I'm genuinely like enamored with the whole concept of the independent bottle shop in Ontario. I think it's the most amazing thing that's ever happened. Like I said, I don't understand why people aren't like losing their shit more. Maybe they are, but I just don't see the talk about it. Maybe I'm disconnected a bit over here.
It's funny. I almost feel a little disconnected. Like Duran Bottle Shop, you mentioned earlier, maybe not by name, but
that's
they're a great shop. Yeah, like even myself, I feel a little bit disconnected because like I see their posts and I see their beer coming out and I support it and I like those posts, but I wish they would kind of tell me more. And so I've kind of made that my mission, and not to talk poorly about them at all. They're doing amazing things, and they're curating amazing selections. But even in like our social media, I try and present that like give a little bit of tasting notes, and it probably takes more time than Zack wants me to take doing it. But
it's a different crowd. I mean, if you compare it to other bottle shops, like you guys have a different crowd. So that
we have a different crowd for
want to
sure.
See that,
for sure.
Like, it seems like a very specific crowd in that they might want to know those tasting notes, whereas someone like Duran, Chris has curated that lineup. If you know, like you're not really going to walk in there like I'm sure they would be. A bunch of people who walk in there and not know what's up.
It's amazing how many people walk in there, considering like where that spot is. Like, if you came from out of town, like you did, it doesn't look like a big like walking traffic area. It's in the middle of a residential neighborhood and across from a church.
Yeah, it's total like destination. And I've been there before, long before they were a bottle shop, and that's why I knew where they were. Yeah. And but I didn't know they were a bottle shop. But that's kind of what I was getting at earlier, is that they've catered to a specific audience who wants that stuff, who doesn't need to be taught about that stuff. You're like, the breweries that they stock and the beers that they stock, and then the way they curate it, that's what they do. And I'm like, okay, cool, that's what they're into. You guys have a different crowd that probably would like those tasting notes because they are interested in the ingredients behind it, whereas the people who go to Duran are more like,
that's true.
I want that new Third Moon, I want that new Badlands, I want that Sun and Hill, I want that blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely.
It's a very different situation. Yeah.
That's part of why there was a little bit of a deviation as well between the main Toronto Brewing account, which was predominantly about brewing, and the Toronto Brewing _BTL, which was my creation when I started on. I was like, we have these customers that they're not going to start brewing. It's not in their DNA. We can talk to them about it, but we can't expect them to pick up this hobby.
Yeah.
So we need to cater to people and educate them at the same time. Which is all part of our MO, but just even creating an account that is more focused on what their interests, why they came to us to begin with, why they're following us. So still try and tie everything into our main prerogative, which is like the love of beer, and everything that is behind that, but also just giving them a little bit more of what they want and a little bit more of just letting them know like what's new, why you should like this, and why you should come see us.
And that makes sense for the brand. I think that's like, that's the point, is that you differentiate it by doing that. Some stores might need to, some might not. Some breweries might need to, some might not. And it's cool that you've figured that that's how your customers like that communication.
Again, like utmost respect to those places.
Oh no, I don't think anyone would take anything. It was more pointing out the differences as opposed to saying one's good or one's bad. It's not. There's no, measuring what's better. It's more just like the approach works for. Chris doesn't need to go on and explain every hop that's in all these new Third Moon beers and stuff. We don't give a shit. It's Third Moon, it's Badlands, it's whatever. They're gonna buy it.
Yeah.
With you guys, you are catering towards a different crowd that want to know that, because they're gonna want to buy that beer, but they're gonna want to buy the malt that's associated with it. They're gonna want to buy those hops. They're gonna want to buy those the yeast. Like it's a
for sure.
It's a very different thing, and that's what I've learned today. Is that you you guys do have that very unique clientele, and you're approaching it exactly as you should be for the type of business that you are. And it's not completely different, but it's still, there's a very niche side to what you're doing that differentiates you guys from any of the other bottle shops. So I think that's I think it's great, and the beautiful part, there's plenty of room for all of it. I think the more bottle shops in the city that we have, and the province, even beyond the city, the better. The more we have in Hamilton, the better. It's very cool, and it caters to everybody. And I think that's what craft beer needs, is those different businesses that cater to the different the different clientele. And that's that's what we're here for, dude. And I appreciate it. This is great. This has been really educational. I feel like we've cracked open a bunch of stuff that we normally wouldn't, and we've really got a bit more of a peek behind what it takes to run indie bottle shop in Ontario. It's a beautiful thing, man. I'm glad we all connected. Stick around after we'll wrap this up. Stick around afterwards, and we'll finish up. But where can everybody find Toronto Brewing and the bottle shop online?
Yep. So torontobrewing.ca.com works for the website. On Instagram, it's Toronto Brewing, or Toronto Brewing _BTL, which is specifically for the bottle shop. We kind of tie the two together, but keeps you a little more focused on that.
Yes.
And that's about it.
Do the shipping.
I think we don't even... And we do the shipping.
Shipping anywhere in Ontario?
Place an order, and we'll ship it.
Wherever you might be, place an order.
In Ontario. Or, wherever. Or
just...
In Ontario.
In Ontario.
In Ontario.
Legend. Thank you again, bro. I really appreciate you. This has been genuinely fantastic. I've enjoyed this. Episode 100, guys. So stick around. We'll finish up after. But
that's crazy.
I thought it would be perfect for this one. We didn't need to make a big deal about episode 100 for this series, but I thought it was perfect because this is something I'm very passionate about. And since both you and I and Zach and I had a history, I was like, this is money.
What's crazy about this is, moving to Hamilton 5 years ago and starting to brew not long after, I discovered your podcast not long after that. So it's been like 4 years of listening to your podcast. I think I made a joke on one of your posts for like whatever episode, being like, you've kept me company on my ride from Hamilton to Toronto for a long time. So
I think I remember that. And look, I love that, and I loved even more that we knew each other back in the day too. But it's
which I didn't. Yeah, I didn't
even
put that together until I saw.
Recently. Yeah, man, it's crazy shit. It's there's lots of episodes now. It's been cool. There's we get to talk. I get to talk to very intelligent people who know so much more than me, and I just soak up the game, and it's fun. It's,
whatever.
It's a really cool thing, man. If we can keep these, I like capturing all the stories from everybody. Predominantly here, between Quebec and Ontario is what we focus on. Obviously, beyond if it happens, but mostly here, and it's great. I'm glad if anyone appreciates it. It's a beautiful thing for me, man. This is a ton of fun, and I appreciate you. But everybody, thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the flippin' thumbs up, hit subscribe below, hit the notification bell so you know when the new drops. Follow us on social media everywhere at BAOS Podcast, and check us out on the audio. Every Wednesday we drop at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have this episode. This episode will be dropping in next Wednesday. We're recording it on a Friday, but we're going to have the Link Up series dropping alongside our Adjunct Series this time, instead of sort of stopping for a bit, because why not give y'all a little bit extra content? Guys, that is it. We appreciate you. We'll see you in the next episode. Thanks again, Justin. Get it in, you guys.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers.